HOA banned me from digging a well in my lake, so I cut off water to their prize cattle ranch. Can an HOA really tell you you're not allowed to access your own groundwater? That was the question I asked when I found a laminated violation notice duct taped to the backhoe I was using to drill my new well. Not on their land, not on shared space, on my lakeside property, which I inherited from my grandfather's 62 acres of rolling pasture, tree-shaded ridges, and full water rights since 1948. The signature at the bottom of that notice? Karen Whitfield, HOA president. 5'5", 300 pounds of ego stuffed into a community oversight vest, and a face like she just smelled rotten peaches. She waddled around like she owned the zip code, waving around clipboards and field inspections like legal documents. But let's back up. My land sits on the north end of Carver Lake, just outside the HOA subdivision that popped up in 2012. When they started building those fancy ranch homes with white vinyl fencing and imported grass seed, I made it very clear I wasn't interested in joining their association. And legally, I couldn't be forced in. My parcel is zoned independent, agricultural, and outside their jurisdiction. But Karen didn't like that. She called it a visual blemish on her master plan vision. She called me non-compliant. I called her ridiculous. Last spring, when the droughts started tightening our well lines, I filed a permit to drill a backup well near the lake. Totally legal. I worked with the county, got approvals, paid for the hydrology report out of pocket. And when I finally brought the crew out to drill right there on my own land, Karen showed up like a wrecking ball with sweat stains and a shaky phone camera. "This is a violation," she barked, pointing at the orange paint lines my crew had marked. "You're tampering with HOA watershed." I stood next to the auger in disbelief. "This is my watershed. Your HOA ends 800 feet that way." She snorted. "We passed a shared aquifer provision. Everything downstream is now protected under community use clauses. I suggest you stop digging before you face consequences." I tried to stay calm. "Karen, if you so much as touch that equipment, I'll have you charged with trespass." She narrowed her eyes. "You wouldn't dare." I smiled. "Try me." That afternoon, I found the auger's hydraulic line cut. Twist one hit hard. Karen didn't just complain. She sabotaged my equipment. And I had proof thanks to my trail cam mounted on a nearby oak tree. There she was in full frame, her big frame hunched over the machine, pulling a blade from her back pocket and slicing the line clean. She even smiled at the camera, probably thought it was just a motion sensor. I sent the footage to the sheriff. Karen was cited, charged with criminal mischief, and ordered to pay restitution. But that wasn't enough, because 2 days later, she filed a temporary watershed injunction through the HOA's legal rep, blocking my well project until they could review the environmental impact, which was total garbage. They had no jurisdiction, but the paperwork was just enough to delay my drilling window by 30 days, a window I couldn't afford to miss before the summer heat hit. So I did what any rational landowner with legal water rights, a well drilling delay, and a massive grudge would do. I reviewed the easement maps. Twist 2. The HOA's prize cattle ranch, the one they use for community eco-education, tours, and seasonal beef sales, sat directly downhill from my land. And their watering troughs? All fed from a buried, gravity-fed pipe system that originated at a valve on my lakeside property. A valve my grandfather had installed and permitted long before their neighborhood even existed. They never asked, never paid, just assumed it was part of the lake. I locked it. Karen came storming down the next morning in her beat-up golf cart, sweat pouring from her face. "What did you do?" "The cattle don't have water." "I shut off my water," I said. "You wanted oversight. Now you've got it. You can't do this. You're endangering animals." I leaned on my shovel. "Should have thought of that before you endangered my equipment." The sheriff backed me up. So did the county. So did the state agricultural board. Karen didn't take the shutoff lightly. She called an emergency HOA meeting and tried to spin the situation, told everyone I was hoarding natural resources, that I hated animals, and that I was using water as a weapon. It might have worked if she hadn't included the part where she admitted on the HOA group chat that the valve was technically on my land. Screenshots? Already forwarded to the sheriff. and to the county AG commissioner, and to my lawyer. But it didn't stop there. Twist 3 dropped like thunder during a drought. Turns out, Karen had quietly rerouted HOA landscaping water from her own property line using illegal PVC siphons connected directly to the cattle line. While the community cows were panting under dry sun, Karen's own backyard grass was emerald green. One of her own board members, a soft-spoken ranch mom named Emily, came forward with drone footage showing the green hose snaking through Karen's hedges. The HOA revolted. The Eco Ranch Kids program was canceled. The cattle troughs sat dry and cracked for 2 weeks. Karen tried to haul water in plastic bins using her golf cart. One tipped over. She screamed. A video went viral. They called it Karen versus Gravity. Meanwhile, I drilled my well. I drilled it deep, clean, and right through to a fresh aquifer no one had mapped. The state even commended me. Turns out, my permit saved them from having to relocate a utility project. The deputy who handled Karen's case showed up the day we finished and toasted with us using cold water from the pump. 2 weeks later, I received a letter. Not a threat this time, but a formal apology from the new HOA board president. Karen had been removed unanimously. She was fined $42,000 for misuse of funds, trespassing, and unauthorized water diversion. Her lot, once the biggest and most expensive in the development, was now the least desirable, with a dead yard, dried hedges, and a plastic flamingo melted halfway by the sun. Her cattle ranch dream? Gone. The troughs never filled again. The county ordered them capped and replaced with a city-monitored line. And Karen? She moved, quietly, early in the morning. No farewell, no Facebook post, no clipboard goodbye. And me? I carved a sign out of cedar and placed it beside the new pump. It reads, "My well, my water, my rules." People still stop and take pictures. I even gave Emily and the other ex-board members full access to fill water tanks with permission. Because community doesn't come from rules. It comes from respect. So I'll leave you with this. Was Karen really protecting the HOA or just trying to steal control one drop at a time? The end.